if you're familiar with my work, you know that my background is journalism. I have 2 degrees in journalism, master's in magazine publishing from Northwestern, and I've been a freelance writer for a very long time. We'll put it like that. You know, if I put an age to it, it'll make me feel really, really old, and it'll be embarrassing. But being a freelance writer is different because you have to always be closing, as I used to say in Glengarry Glen Ross. I wouldn't recommend anything else from the movie, classic movie. But that thing, ABC, that's a big part of it. Because when you're an independent writer or you're doing independent writing on the side, which is totally cool too, you have to continually find out who you're going to write for first. Now, I'm not talking about blogging for yourself, or even in my case, where I have this TV show with BringYourWorth.tv. I'm talking about actually contributing to the Playboys, the New York Post, the ARPs, the Family Circles, a lot of these publications that I've been fortunate enough to contribute to over the years. So today's Q&A is going to talk about that, talking about writing for mainstream and even slightly avant-garde, which I've done, publications, newspapers, magazines, websites, whatever, it will work. Even if it's a blog, I'm talking about blogs that are actually owned by someone else that's actually part of a bigger system. So we're talking more mainstream versus I want to start creating. That's a different discussion. So today we're going to talk about the best tools, and I'm also going to share the biggest questions that I get from people who are interested in freelancing and where to start with it. The first question I often get is, no pun intended, I kind of buried the lead there and kind of spoiled the lead too. How do I start? How do I start and begin freelance writing? So freelance writing, basic definition. You approach a publication and you say, hey, I want to do this particular article for this particular audience. Your audience happens to match the audience I want to reach, and I would like to do this article. It's called a pitch. We'll get into the pitch in a second. So just like you would pitch anything else, you know, when if you work for a coffee shop and someone comes up and they're like, well, I'm not sure what I want. And you say, well, you can try our new Frappuccino. Or if you really want to push it, you can do this. It's the same type of thing. You are serving this greater publication. And in my case, I've written a long time for Playboy. So the topics that I wanted to cover fit Playboy's demographic really well for many, many years. And so it breaks down to 3 different things. And I took some notes on this to make sure it was super clear to y'all and clear to me too. Sometimes you do things for so long and then you have to explain it to someone else. And you're like, wait a second. You start with an important topic, a topic that might be important to you, but more importantly is important to a particular audience that you want to serve. Number 2, you have to explain or show why you're the one to write it. Why are you the one to write it? Do you have access to certain people that you interview for this article? Are you an expert or know a lot about this particular topic? And so that makes you uniquely qualified. And lastly, how you can actually reach the group that needs to hear it. And that would help determine what publication you would pitch something for. So if it was something about the benefits of retiring early, let's say in your 50s, that might not work for Playboy magazine because the demographic that they're aiming for are, say, 24 to 45, right? But for ARP magazine, who I've been a regular writer for it for a while, and I used to have a column with them, a video game column, believe it or not, about 10, 20 years ago, long time ago, that would be ideal for them because they're trying to set it up so that people will understand and think about retirement. And it might not be their exact demographic because the person that gets ARP might be already in retirement, but they might be able to pass it on to some of their kids who are thinking about retirement. And also the ARP crowd is more likely to be talking about retirement than the Playboy crowd, because the Playboy crowd, the guys that read it and gals, whomever, they're not trying to think about retirement. The Playboy has the energy of a youthful publication. So you have to kind of think about what the topic is, why it's important, why you have a certain expertise in it, and how you should use that particular publication or work with that publication to get it out there. Hopefully that makes sense. Drop a line in the comments if there's any other details that you're curious about. That's the best way I can describe what's called a query or a pitch. If you want to go a little bit deeper, and in fact, this will be, I think, one of the first steps, check out the American Society of Journalists and Authors. I was already hyping them up at the beginning of the show. Fantastic organization. They, along with the Writers Guild, are the two premier writers organizations. You can call them unions if you like, based here in North America, and particularly in the United States, obviously with ASJA. But we have a lot of Canadian members, so shout out to you guys. You know who you are. ASJA is fantastic because they have conferences. Again, I keynoted a few months ago. They have conferences throughout the year, some of them virtual. A lot of them, though, which is where I got my bones at and really got a chance to network with people, was when they had them in person in Midtown Manhattan. I have so many memories, excuse me, and people that I'm still cool with to this day, and people that, like, all these books right here are books I've contributed to, books I've published. Many of them would not have happened without either learning from ASJA or the connections connected to ASJA, as far as being in New York, connecting with different folks, or even virtually. And there's so many things that even come from ASJA now, even though a lot of it is remote. So be sure and check them out. I think it's a good first step. There's a certain criteria that you need to hit to become an official member. That's often, they change it every year, but I believe it's like you have to have a couple books published, and or you have to or more the or have a couple books published, or have a byline, which is your name, in 6 or more publications that are considered mainstream. That can be a high order. It took me a few years to get to that point when I first started my freelance career, but they have a ton of resources that are available in general for everybody. That's what you want to work with. They also have a Facebook page and other things going on that are available, I believe, to everyone. Be sure and check them out. The resources are infinite on there. And again, the keynote that I did for ASJ a few months ago will be premiering on the channel, audio only, this Sunday. And then there's a link. If you click that link, it'll link over to right below the video. It will actually link to the ASJ packages that allow anybody, whether you're a member or not, to actually get involved, check it out, and watch the whole keynote on its own, you know? Right? And ASJ is fantastic. Yeah, thank you for the note. You know, I'm not hyping them up for no reason. They're fantastic. Like, they're fantastic. And they've been integral to some of the work that I've done, and obviously for some other folks as well. If you want some hard copy material, I do not have a physical copy because I haven't had this joint in a while. The Writer's Market, 100th edition. That's how far back it goes, right? I remember getting the Writer's Market, and I was broke, living in Chicago, in a small apartment, trying to get my freelance on. And the Writer's Market is essentially, I don't even have a book that's the same size of it. Let me just take all my books. If you took my last 3 books, including the one that's coming up, put them together, heck, bring another one. It's that big. That's how big it is. It's huge, right? It's like a Bible. And what it does is they spend the whole year working on this, almost like an almanac, right? They spend the whole year working on this. And then they say, all right, let's use Playboy again for an example. Okay, if you're going to pitch Playboy, these are the main editors there. These are their email addresses and or the submission for their website. This is how often they come out, like, 12 times a year, 10 times a year, whatever. I think they're still monthly, so 12 times a year. This is their circulation, or how many articles, or how many magazines they print every month. So I'm guessing Playboy circulation, nowadays, I'm guessing their circulation is about 7 million. That's just a guess. You can correct me in the comments if you happen to know. So 7 million copies of Playboy go out every month, etc. More importantly, they talk about who the head editors are and how much they pay. We're going to get into that in a second. So it gives you the whole breakdown. You can go to different websites. Shout out to Freelance Success and all these other websites that are on there, which are fantastic. ASJ is one of them. This is actually something, though, where you just want to keep it on your desk to be like, you know what? I really have an article idea that I want to pitch to Writer's Digest. Who do I reach there? Now, of course, Dr. Google can help take care of you. Shout out to Dr. Google. It changed things because I was doing freelance writing before Google was even invented. That gives you some ideas for how long I've been doing it. But there's certain limitations to much access you're going to have. And having something physical, again, that big on your desk is important. So check it out. I would highly recommend you see what's happening with there, with that. It's a Bring Your Worth TV show. Every Wednesday and Sunday, I'm doing a special where I'm going live every single day, every work day throughout this month. So be sure and tune in and you can subscribe right below.